Let's do one more example before I give you exercise to do. This one is deceptively easy. In its appearance, it says A subtract B subtract, in parentheses, B subtract A. Inside the parentheses, we have B subtract A. These cannot be combined because they're not like terms, and so all we can do is change the subtracts to add the opposite. We also have a minus sign preceding a parenthesis, so let's write in our understood 1 coefficient for those parentheses. Then each place that says subtract can be changed to add the opposite. Notice that this first one, a subtract B, that will be changed. Then subtract 1, that will be changed, times B subtract A, that will be changed. This time all of the subtraction signs will be changed. All of the minus signs in this problem do mean subtract. So we make all the changes. Subtract B changes to add the opposite of B. Subtract 1 changes to add negative 1. Subtract A changes to add the opposite of A. Now we have add, and multiply, which is done first. The order of operations says we must multiply first, and so let's do. Let's multiply negative 1 times B and negative 1 times the opposite of A. And this gives us the opposite of B plus A. And so we have A plus the opposite of B plus the opposite of B plus A. Everything is now added. To add in expressions of this sort, we find the like terms so they can be combined. Adding A plus A gives us 2A because each of these has an understood coefficient of 1. 1A plus 1A gives us 2A. Likewise, adding the opposite of B plus the opposite of B will give us opposite of 2B because there's an understood 1, I can scarcely squeeze it in here, understood 1 coefficient for each of these. And so we get 2A plus the opposite of 2B. And then for the best form, we drop the add the opposite and write subtract. You may have noticed something a bit strange about the way I'm reading these expressions. When I read this minus sign, I read it as negative and say negative 1. When I read this minus sign, I read it as the opposite. Why not say negative B? The reason is we don't yet know what number B stands for. If B stands for a positive number, like for instance 25, then a minus sign before 25 would be the opposite of 25, which would be a negative number. But if B stands for, let's say, negative 12, a minus sign before negative 12 would mean the opposite of negative 12, which is positive 12. So not knowing the value of B means I do not know what this minus sign will do. I don't know whether it will turn this number into a positive or a negative value. Therefore, to be on the safe side, I read this as the opposite of B. What I'm telling you is a fine point that is known by professional mathematicians and by advanced algebra students. Don't worry about the way you say this. Recognize that your instructor is going to say it correctly every time, and as you go further along in mathematics, it will make better sense to you. You'll get more and more practice with it. For now, we're concentrating simply on writing correctly the problems and the work and their answers. So let's do that with some exercises. I'm giving you 5 exercises. The instructions for all of them are to simplify, copy these problems correctly on your paper, then stop the tape, work the problems, then restart the tape to check your answers. Let me read them out to you to be sure you copy them down correctly. Exercise number 1 is 2 subtract 5, parenthesis, 3x subtract 1, parenthesis. Exercise 2, 8 subtract, parenthesis, 15 plus 2y, parenthesis, subtract y. Exercise 3, 7, parenthesis, 5x minus 1, parenthesis, minus, parenthesis, 6x minus 3, parenthesis. Exercise 4, negative 2, bracket, 4a subtract, parenthesis, 6 subtract 2a, parenthesis, bracket. Exercise 5, negative 9n plus 3, bracket, n minus 4, parenthesis, n plus 7, parenthesis, bracket. Your answers should be, for number 1, negative 15x plus 7. For number 2, negative 3y subtract 7. For number 3, 29x subtract 4. For number 4, negative 12a plus 12. And for number 5, negative 18n subtract 84. If you made a mistake on any of these and cannot find where you went wrong, be sure to mark the problem on your paper so that when you go to the lab, you can ask help from a tutor or a lab instructor. This concludes math tape number 063.